Good morning, Campbell McCrary here, Amvest Capital in New York City. Welcome to the Amvest Capital Inc. live webinar with Valterra Resource Corporation and Pilar Gold, but more on that. Valterra trades on the TSX Venture as VQA and as VRSCF on the OTCQB. We hope you'll enjoy today's program. It will also be available in on-demand replay in about an hour. You can get a copy of it at amvestcapital.com/replays. We'd love your questions. Please chat them in the GoToWebinar control panel or email them in, and we'll ask them in real time. Amvest Capital is a New York-based specialist investment bank and corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resource sector. And very important, this call is for informational purposes only, so please read this carefully. Presenting today, we have Larry Page, Director and President of Valterra and the Manex Group, Rob McDonald, Exploration at Manex and Valterra, and Jeremy Gray, the CEO of Pilar Gold. So, Larry, if you want, Rob, want to turn on your webcams and share your screen, Rob, and then I understand after Larry, we'll have Jeremy jump in.
Thanks, Campbell. It's Larry Page. Am I operational now?
Yes, all good.
Good. Well, I'd like to thank the attendees for taking the time to listen to us today. We're going to be presenting kind of in a interesting way the Valterra Resource Corporation. The shareholders who have followed us over some time know that Valterra is one of 4 companies that's managed by the Manex Resource Group out of Vancouver, with offices in Reno. To put matters into some sort of a context, I just asked our accounting people to tell me how many financings that the Manex Group has done in the last 48 months, and then and that's some slightly better than $48 million in fresh equity financings, option and warrant exercises. So the junior resource market is alive and well, notwithstanding what we heard today when we turned on our computers. On the metals markets, Valterra has been exploring in British Columbia for some considerable time. That's its main property. Rob will tell you a little bit about that. A couple of years ago, with the principles of the Pilar Gold Company, as it now is, we took a foray into Brazil and advanced $2.5 million to purchase property and to commission a mine and mill. And it became apparent that Pilar Gold was going down a parallel path and was doing much bigger things than we could finance as a junior. And so we decided that we would take our investment and our assets in Brazil, we would sell them to the Pilar company for shares. And accordingly, we've made all our filings with the exchange, and the exchange has approved that transaction, subject to us completing an equity raise, which we're in the middle of now. That's a long way to go about this, but I thought it might be useful for us to now break and listen to the Pilar story. Jeremy Gray is going to present that. And then we'll come back and talk about where we're going to be deploying money in Mexico. At the present time, Rob McDonald can tell us that story. We tell you about the other assets in the company, and then we can have some Q&A. So, Jeremy, I'm going to pass this over to you now, and if you could tell the Pilar story, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great. Well, and thank you everyone for joining us this morning. we're very proud to have Valterra as one of our largest shareholders of Pilar, and really excited that we will be allowed to grow the Pocone business that sat with Valterra. I have other management on the call if you have any questions, but we will be working tirelessly to make your 4 million shares very valuable later this year as we list. And you know, I'd like to think that this will be a really nice returning investment for Valterra shareholders. We are 100% Brazilian focused, as you see there with the acquisition of the Equinox Pilar Mine and Mill that we acquired 3 months ago. Ed, if you just keep going down, I just want to give you an idea of the scale of what Valterra has as an investment now in this business. We have 3 businesses, of which Pocone was part of Valterra, which we acquired from Larry for $2.4 million. And we strongly believe now that it's in a much bigger group that we can really maximize the value for you as shareholders, but also bring some extremely strong cash flowing mines already in place and some super high grade mines that we'll talk about very quickly. Just keep going, Ed. And this is where we are. Okay, so the Pocone mine is, you can see there in the state of Mato Grosso, but we have the finer gold business and the Pilar gold business. Keep going, Ed. So we're consolidating the district. Would like to be 100,000 ounce producer next year. The Livramento mill is part of Pocone. This we believe we can really maximize the upside and potential of Livramento. We have the Cascavel mill and also the Pilar mill, but our plans are to get to 200,000 ounces. Would like to become a $5 stock, which I guess would translate into about 20 cents a share for Valterra. We acquired for $38 million, a $250 million business from Equinox. It's a beautiful operation, a 5,000 ton a day mill, 750 highly trained staff, 3.4 million ounces, which we think we can grow to 8 million just from the Pilar assets alone. Keep going, Ed. And we have basically 6 mines, and this we really working hard. And you are actually our first ever public presentation, so we jumped at the opportunity when Larry asked us to join this afternoon or this morning, because we've never presented this story. We are private. The mine number 1 is Pilar, which is 30,000 ounces currently. We believe it will go to 50,000 ounces. That's all self-funded, that growth. The second mine we acquired was Maria Lazara. We believe this is 10 kilometers from the existing Pilar mine number 1. That's a 50,000 ounce operation in the next 2 years, all fully funded. It's mining right now. We have a third mine, Caema, which is 40 kilometers from the Pilar mine and mill, and we're fast tracking that restart for next year. So already we think we've got 120,000 ounces potentially from those 3 mines. But really, the excitement for us outside of Pocone is the fact that we've acquired a world-class mill. These sorts of mills would cost $150 million to build today, 5,000 tons a day through the mill, and it allows us to develop a hub and spoke strategy. But more importantly, in the next slide, our focus is to bring on what we believe will be one of the highest grading gold mines, hopefully next year, called Satao. Ed will show you what Satao used to produce open pit. Open pit, it used to be a 30-gram, a 29-gram open pit mine for 3 years at an average cash cost of less than $100. They were supposed to go underground in 2007, and for various different reasons, they decided to move the operation to northern Brazil, and they left us with some beautiful high grade, which we're now going to fast track the development of. This is a picture of the mine when it was decommissioned on the final day. The grades are just phenomenal. We think this is higher grade than Cora, which is K92. We think it's higher grade than Fosterville, smaller but much higher grade. And this is what we believe will take our stock to $3 to $5 a share, or $5. That's effectively 20 million Canadian value for you as Valterra shareholders, or about 20 cents a share. Ed, just keep going. We're planning to truck Satao up to Pilar. So we have a world-class mill up the road and an incredibly exciting high-grade Satao mine that we should have operating by the end of this year. The other high-grade mine that you effectively now as Valterra have an investment in is the Cascabel mine. This is restarting next month. Ed, you can just show some of the, we've just refurbished. This was the picture of what Cascabel looked like 2 months ago. On the next slide, this is what it looks like today. It's ready to go, it's brand new. It's what you as Valterra shareholders you own. We think Cascabel could be extremely exciting. Ed will show you just on the next slide, you can see this is a mine that historically averaged 71 grams in the Mestre zone. It's 20 kilometers north of Satao, and it never had the opportunity to really get going. It closed short, and this is a 20 to 30 year mine life. And we're very, very excited to be reopening Cascabel. But the other interesting thing about Cascabel, and Larry is obviously with Southern Silver, he knows his silver better than we do, but directly below the Mestre zone, we have some drilling 7 years ago intersected, if you just there, yeah, 17 meters of silver at 1,200 grams. And it was drilled by accident, and it was never followed up. So this is another, you can see there what it looks like on a 3D. There was never any drilling done after that hole. We think that's probably the best hole ever drilled in Brazil for silver. And we talked to Rob and Larry a lot about this potential here. And this is, again, a significant potential value accretive asset as for you as Valterra shareholders. And then if I just keep going to show you, we have nearly 1,000 staff, so we have working for the Pilar Gold operation. Now, when Larry and I and Rob were building the Pocone business, we had 50, and we didn't have the opportunity to really accumulate capital to really get the business going. But with this staff, we want to take Pocone, mine number 6, to a 2,000 ounce producer. And I think that was always our intention and Larry's intention to grow Pocone to that level. But unfortunately, with COVID and the ability to raise money, now we think we have that potential to really maximize your investment as Valterra shareholders, rather than always coming cap in hand looking for money from yourself. So we should have 6 mines operating by the end of next year, going to 200,000 ounces. And I'll just give you an idea of what Larry bought the investment at, which I think he got a fantastic deal. The last round Larry acquired, he took stock at 60 cents. Which values this business is just $109 million US. And this includes 5 mines, a world-class mill. We think 2 of the highest grading gold mines in the world next year, a silver deposit target that looks as good as anything in Mexico or Peru, and you get in it for just 109. So I'd like to think if we work really hard and focus next year, we can get this to $3 to $5 shares and really maximize the value for you as Valterra shareholders. We also appreciate that at the moment we're private, so it's difficult for you to look at and compare every day what our share price is doing, so you can work out the NAV for Valterra. But I do, I feel very strongly that Valterra today, with the stake in Pilar and with the exciting exploration that you're doing at the moment at Los Reyes and potentially at Swiftgate, that you have a phenomenal story with under the reins of Larry and Rob and the whole team. And we're just very privileged to be working with Manex and with Valterra, and for giving us this opportunity to really grow an asset that we wanted to grow with you, and we think it's now in a much better, even a stronger position now. So Larry, is that okay? I thought we'd just keep it. Then there's a thank you. That's the little town of Goiás where our main office is. It's a beautiful town, and we have 3 different offices now, and just a wonderful business which we're very excited to grow with you and hopefully maximize your value going forward.
Am I on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Shareholders who invested in the last couple of rounds saw their money being deployed down to Brazil, and so I think it's important for them to know that there will be no further need to send money there, but over time the asset will grow and can be utilized when it's monetized, can be utilized in other properties that the company has. Our intention is to grow Valterra into a substantial company, just the same as the other companies that are in the group. Having said that, I'm going to ask Rob McDonald now to tell the folks here what we're going to do with the next raise and how we're going to deploy it in Mexico. Rob, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Larry, and thank you and thanks to Amvest for giving us this platform to present, and thank you all for joining us this morning. And so yes, I'll speak on Valterra Resources. There is a disclaimer. I will be using forward-looking statements as a geologist. That is part of my job. And a little bit of the capital structure on Valterra. Relatively low shares issued and outstanding, basically a micro cap, leaving a tremendous upside for the investor on a potential investment in Valterra. We have an experienced board of directors and management with excellent corporate handling of the company, as well as some very experienced explorationists that have been working, in Mexico and British Columbia, really for decades. So why invest in Valterra? Features experienced management and an exploration team with a history of success. It has a very low market capitalization, plenty of upside. We believe now that this is an excellent entry point for exposure to North American copper gold exploration properties. And we feature high-grade copper and gold properties that are drill ready, fully permitted, and ready for drilling in 2021. Jeremy has given a presentation on the passive interest in gold mining in Brazil and our investment in the Pilar Gold company. So I really won't get into that in any significant detail here. So the two exploration properties that are featured in Valterra are the Swiftgate project in southern British Columbia and the Los Reyes project located in southern Chihuahua, Mexico. Los Reyes is targeting a near-term multi-million ton high-grade copper gold resource. We have a surface program. It's defined some high-grade copper targets, and this we've identified as being our primary targeting exploration target objective for the remainder of 2021. I'll get into that in a little bit more detail in the presentation. With Swiftgate, it features both high-grade gold mineralization as well as a copper-gold target. The gold target is looking at a 2 million ounce gold, high-grade gold system similar to the Roslyn, the nearby Roslyn mining camp, as well as a larger bulk mineable copper gold target. And again, I'll feature that a little bit more as we move through the presentation. But starting off with Los Reyes, at this point, it's a copper gold skarn system located in southern Chihuahua, New Mexico. We've purchased the project or in the process of purchasing the project for $4 million over 5 years. It's subject to a 2% royalty. It's located just 12 kilometers south of Jimenez in Chihuahua. It's within 2 kilometers of a highway, power and rail, and it's accessible. It's accessible by road coming into the project area. It's a land package that covers an 800-meter long strike length of anomalous copper and gold mineralization along the eastern flank of this intrusion, which presents the main target that we will be focusing on. So again, the components of the system are granodioritic intrusion and intruding into Cretaceous limestones and shales. This has resulted in a very strong alteration zone along that full 800-meter strike length, and we have a series of copper gold targets along that 800-meter long corridor that tends to be upwards of 100 meters wide. There are multiple surface pits and workings along that. You can see the dumps, the historic dumps from the surface working, and these workings extended down around 60 meters. They were oxide, targeting oxide mineralization, and targeting oxide mineralization, and with our main target being the sulfide mineralization beneath the oxide target. Again, an example, some of the historic workings, some of the dump material. You can see a lot of the malachite within the dump material. Some of this was sampled, returning very high-grade results, as well as some channel samples and chip samples were taken that are letting us vector into the main target areas on this property. We have this is a picture of the geology, the plan map of the geology, about an 800-meter strike length target area, zone of alteration along the margin of the intrusion, with the intrusion in pink on the left here, and then the sedimentary rocks, the limestone and shale sedimentary rocks on the right here. There's a series of historic workings that dot along the contact. We've collected samples at and around those historic workings, identified a series of targets. We've run geophysics, IP geophysics over the area to help refine the targets. And so now we've identified the copper gold skarn target that could be as much as multi-million ton higher grade copper mineralization with some potential gold component. Now, the belief is that this system is fed by a deeper system, that the intrusion along which the mineralization is formed is relatively unmineralized. And so there may very well be a feeder at depth, which might result in a much larger copper porphyry target, but that is a secondary target at this time as we focus on the higher grade copper gold potential along this 800-meter contact on the property. The first phase of mapping and sampling along of the property is complete. We've sampled 22 of 28 dump and outcrop samples. These are averaging 3.1% copper and up to 5.9% copper. We're seeing elevated precious and base metal values within that historic sampling as well. And the IP geophysical survey confirmed the depth potential, confirmed that the system projects to several hundred meters or more, basically to the bottom limits of the survey as it projects to depth. So you can see some of the geophysical lines or geophysical results here. We're seeing some excellent targets that we're outlining a series of drill holes to test underneath the historic sampling, geophysical targets, again, underneath historical sampling, geophysical targets, and we've identified 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different fences along the 800-meter strike length. It's a 6-hole, 2,000-meter core program that will test up to 600-meter strike length of the target area at a budget of around $400,000 US. So, in summary, the Los Reyes project, we're targeting high-grade copper, gold, skarn mineralization along an 800-meter long target. Our successful phase 1 program confirms the high-grade copper and artisanal surface workings, which is always a good indication of a big mineralizing system. And we have geophysical targets at depth that are forming in part the basis of our drill targeting. We've identified a 6-hole, 2,000-meter program with a plan to test the skarn for up to 400 meters depth. And of course, as we chase the skarn down dip, where there's always the potential of copper gold porphyry system below the skarn. So at the Swiftgate project, this is located, it's again copper gold exposure in southern British Columbia. The project is located near the town of Salmo or Nelson in southern BC, within the canal terrain, the southern extent of the canal terrain. It's a large land package at over 83 square kilometers. We have excellent access to infrastructure, year-round exploration ability, and we're seeing 2 zones. We're seeing a gold, silver, copper epithermal target that's possibly analogous to the nearby Roslyn system, which sits over in this area. And we also have a copper, gold, silver porphyry deposit known as the Katy zone. And so this is how you get the name Swift-Katy. The Katy zone is the copper, gold, porphyry. The Swift zone is the high-grade gold mineralization. Most recently, we've been focused on the gold target. In 2017, we drilled, high-grade gold mineralization, 11 grams per ton gold, over 2.5 meters, as well as some broad zones over 20 meters of plus 1 gram per ton gold mineralization. And again, thick zones, 8 meters of 3 grams gold. These are some of the highlights of the 2017 drilling and remain viable targets for follow-up as we continue to advance the project. The setting of the Swift-Katy, we're surrounded by historic mines, high-grade gold mines, as well as an active advanced exploration pre-development project at Kena. This used to be a project that was owned by Falconbridge and Noranda. It was amalgamated in the early 2000s. We now have 100% ownership of the project, and again we have the Katy portion to the north and the Swift portion to the south. The claims are in good standing well into the 2020s. Again, the Katy and the Swift area, and you can see the access that we have here. It's at the intersection of two main roadways. There's rail lines, there's a power line, as well as a gas line that literally runs right through the property. So again, it's one of these projects where location, and where we can take full advantage of infrastructure in southern BC, unlike some areas maybe up in the Golden Triangle of northwestern BC, where it's all helicopter supported. We can get in and out of the property by road without any issue at all. The main target on the in the Swift target is a over 2 kilometer long mineralized structure. We've completed 2 phases of drilling on that zone, and again the highlights from the latest phase of drilling: over 11 grams gold over 2.5 meters, over 1 gram gold over 22 meters, and 3 grams over 8.6 meters. The northern part of the property is the Katy target. It's the copper gold target. It's a broad area that's seen now over 70 drill holes, some of which drilled in the 80s and 90s, and as well as our own drilling, over 20 holes drilled in the 2000s and the 2010s. It is a broad area, over 1,500 meter strike length. You can see accumulations of copper gold mineralization in 3 particular areas: the Katy West, the Katy Main, and the 17 zone. We see that there are areas, additional areas to drill up in here, as well as a broad area to continue drilling on there. Historically, we've seen some pretty good copper and gold mineralization, good thicknesses. And again, it needs another phase of work and drilling to really test the potential of the target area. So for the next phase, we have some surface mapping and sampling and a phase 2 drill program. Initially looking at the gold mineralization and offsetting the gold mineralization in the Trench 19 area, and then again continued exploration as we advance the project in the coming months and years. So with Valterra, to sum it all up, we have exposure to copper gold exploration projects in both British Columbia and Mexico, as well as a passive interest in Brazilian gold production in the Pilar gold area. We have a drill-ready, high-grade copper skarn target at Los Reyes, as well as orogenic gold and copper porphyry targets identified at the Swift-Katy project. And again, a passive interest in gold mining in Brazil. From Jeremy's presentation, you can see the pulling together the component pieces to make that a major Brazilian gold mining operation. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I guess Larry, if you want to join and Thomas. We'll dive into with some Q&A. You're in a lot of places. Can you just kind of give us an update from the COVID angle, so, of travel and delays? Hello? Yeah.
Larry, can you hear that? Are you on? Did you want me to get that one?
Yeah, hold on. Let me get Larry unmuted. Larry, unmute yourself, and we'll jump in. Maybe Rob, while he's working on the microphone, you can start.
I think I figured it out now.
Yeah.
Two things. I figured it out, but I forgot the question.
Oh yeah, COVID. Yeah, so COVID and travel. What kind of delays have there been, and what contingencies have you have in place for as we evolve out of COVID, this situation?
Well, two things. One is that we were never able to get boots on the ground in Brazil, although we put down $2.4 million to buy property and to develop it, etc. We're never able to take our people down or to take investors, etc., down as we normally do. However, having said that, Mexico has always been available to us. We were put onto the Los Reyes property by the geologist who found the Cerro Las Militas project for Southern Silver. Southern Silver is developing that into what could be the largest silver mine in the world. So we had very good assistance in Mexico. We're permitted at Los Reyes. We have competent staff there. We can start traveling again when our Prime Minister finally opens the borders. But personnel can go there now and can do what they need to do. So that is why we decided that we would do that exploration program in Mexico first. The market likes copper at the present time, and copper prices are such that this, if we have luck with the drill stem, could turn into a major mine. And we intend to see what's there. And as I say, we're permitted. We need to finish this financing. We'll deploy our staff in Mexico there and have a drill turning in short order.
Moving to BC for a moment, can you talk more about local support for your project?
Well, we've been operating in British Columbia since about 2005, maybe 2007. We operate out of the town of Salmo. It's located just a few kilometers from the property, yeah, there's a tremendous amount of local support for what we're doing. It's a I guess a blue collar town. They appreciate the jobs that we can bring to the to the area when we are exploring. We use local contractors. We use local people for our operations, and so yes, there is some excellent support for what we're doing on the Swift-Katy project as well.
Is your BC project encumbered by royalties or other interests?
Actually, there is a royalty on the Swift-Katy project, and I don't have that in front of me at this point. Do you recall that, Larry?
It's a 2% NSR with minimum royalty payments. We pay $50,000 a year as advanced minimum royalty payments, which will be deducted against any production. NSRs.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Adam Graff, who has some questions on all the assets, properties.
Great, thank you, Campbell. Just a quick one last follow-up on your BC property. You know, do you guys already have relationships with the indigenous groups, and which of the indigenous groups there that have claims?
We do. Let me just start with this. We've been exploring in British Columbia for the last 40 years, and so we were aware of land claims before they were crystallized in any legal surroundings, etc. At Swiftgate, the last round of drilling that we did, we put out the information, and 4 native bands from as far from Kamloops to the U.S. border said they may have some historical interest in the property, but they weren't sure. And if we would just pay them a small amount of money so they could do some research, they'd get back to us. So nobody has laid any significant claim over this area now. We've operated in the Golden Triangle. I dealt with the tall tans up in the Eskay Creek when we were dealing with that. And one of our sister companies, the Equity Metals, is dealing around the Houston area, Prince George, Houston area, on a property that's is really developing. And what we find, Adam, it's a long answer to a short question, but what we find is discussion and inclusion. You'll come to a reasonable business arrangement with the Indians in British Columbia, and we have a history of doing that. And as a lawyer, I used to act for Indian bands and saw things from their side of the fence. So it's all a matter of reason, and it's all a matter of economics at the end of the day when something goes into production. But on an ongoing basis, as we're in the exploration stage, it's not economically hurtful to us.
Yeah, just a bit of a follow-up there, Larry and Rob. You know, I know you guys have been in BC for some time. You've seen a lot of projects, you know, move forward to various stages of development and operation. There have recently, you know, not just in the last year, but maybe over the last 10 years, have been occasions where the indigenous claims, you know, have stopped projects. Do you feel like there's a trend building, and how do you feel that investors are reacting? You know, if you believe there's a trend here, and reacting specifically to the British Columbia risk, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I mean, I think if the companies do it right, then risk is mitigated. I mean, if you look at Pretium, they went from a major discovery to a mine in 5 years, an absolute, I mean, record breaking. I mean, I'm not sure where else in the world you do that. You look at Red Chris, there was proper engagement with the Tahltan. And actually, in both cases, I believe it was proper engagement with the Tahltan, and mines were put into production. So I believe that if there's the proper engagement and bringing people inside the tent, then it allows projects to more effectively move forward. And I don't know if there's that much greater risk. I think there would seem to be a perception, I agree, is out there, but I honestly don't know if there's that much greater risk than in many other jurisdictions throughout the world.
Okay. Moving to Mexico, maybe you could address sort of a similar theme as far as your relationship with the locals, with the ejitos, and any sort of specific non-operational type risk on your property there.
Well, the property in Mexico is located on some private ranch land, and so we aren't specifically dealing with the ejito on the initial partial that we have, or at least not at this time and level. We are still in the very early stages of exploration and work on the project, and things may evolve as we move forward. But again, we're operating on what is private land at this time, so it's not a significant issue at this time.
And I think you already mentioned that you're in the process of buying into that property for $4 million, and the seller is going to maintain a 2% NSR.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us who the owner is you're buying it from?
That would be Larry. Or that's Larry's patch. It is a local rancher.
Local rancher.
It's
local rancher.
Two individuals, brothers who are local. They've had the property for an appreciably long time. The rest of all that area is Pinoles land, and they are not presently doing any exploration on their land. We have been in touch with Pinoles. We know them quite well. We're dealing with them on the Southern Silver situation, and
I see Pinoles are surrounding you.
Yeah, and we'll see when the drill stem tells us if there's something very significant there. Then we'll be in discussions with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Rob, it sounded like from your description that you guys are really focused on skarn type mineralization versus sort of massive, perhaps massive sulfide, type occurrences, chimneys and mantos, in limestone. But am I misinterpreting your presentation?
Well, I mean, I guess we have to drill it to really find out. I mean, what we know is that there is a series of workings along this this contact, that the workings extended down around, upwards of 60 meters. It was in oxide. It appears to be skarn mineralization, but there may be some replacements, massive replacements. That wouldn't be unexpected. And so I guess we'll find out as we continue exploring the program. But it would be as far as we can tell right now, it is primarily a skarn target, copper gold skarn target.
Mm-hmm. And are there additional geophysics that you guys can run to give you more more clarity on where your targets could be, considering the mineralization that you're looking for?
I imagine there are. I mean, we decided to do a relatively low cost IP survey. The idea was to identify targets, relatively near surface, so that we would be able to test them with an initial relatively low cost drill program. With some success, I could see doing maybe doing some deeper seeing IP surveys. I know CSAMT may be effective to look at depth, or potentially something like a ZTEM or something along those lines. But I think the initial IP survey was a relatively low cost way to image targets and to basically identify or determine if there were targets extending below the open pits or the artisanal workings that would suggest that sulfide mineralization is extending to depth. And to that extent, we're very pleased with the results. It confirmed that there were targets that presumably are sulfide skarn targets, and we'll have the initial test with them. As we move on beyond that, with success, we will do a subsequent phase of step-out drilling on the successful holes, as well as maybe look at more remote sensing techniques, whether it be deeper IP, whether it be ZTEM or whatever at that point, to see if we can chase this mineralization deeper. These things, as we know, and as we've reviewed with Southern Silver's project, I mean, these types of systems can project for over a kilometer depth.
Yeah.
Without any thought or any issue. So the real potential is to be able to chase this mineralization down. You have 800-meter strike length, which is quite a significant strike length. And if the grade holds up, this can be quite a valuable project, a valuable deposit that would be identified.
Have you guys tried to map the intrusive, if there's multi phases in the intrusive, or map the alterations within the intrusive to try to map out where the sort of where the juice is coming from, per se?
Well, the sense that we get, I mean, we haven't spent a lot of time mapping out the specific phases of the intrusive. The focus was to delineate the contact, delineate the alteration zone. Our sense, though, is that the intrusive is largely unmineralized. There looks like there may be some pyrite mineralization in there. Pyrite. I don't know where I got pyrite, but pyrite mineralization. Billy. There is some little bit of minor pyrite veining. There is no economic mineralization that we know of within the granodiorite. It leads us to believe that there may actually be a deeper mineralizing source to the system, and that the contact between the monzonite and the Cretaceous sedimentary rocks simply acted as a pathway. And so I think once we get this first phase of drilling in, it'll allow us to do a bit more of that, to have a full look and analyze if the intrusion itself is multi-phase, to see if there are any intrusive phases directly associated and spatially associated with mineralization within the skarn or the CRD, the adjacent skarn or CRD system, and then to get an idea of what potential phases match with what potential mineralization. So again, I think getting this first set of drill holes in will be the next step in being able to resolve some of those questions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you have a good? I don't know if the Cretaceous is Cuesta del Core over here. But do you have a feel for how thick it is?
No,
that's usually that's always the best host, Rob. So
yeah,
you want that nice and thick with some sandy layers, etc.
I mean, I do know that in terms of the Cretaceous stratigraphy, that there are some major deposits nearby, particularly in Parral, located about 50 to 100 kilometers to the west. There's also some significant occurrences just to the north that appear to be the same part of the same belt of mineralization. But in terms of the actual thickness of the Cuesta del Core, I'm not entirely sure about this specific area.
Well, hopefully that it looked like some of your drilling might answer that question. I assume you're trying to, keep the drills mostly in the Cuesta, in the Cretaceous.
Yes. Yeah. So you can see where we have the drills located here, generally collaring in the intrusion, going through the contact, going directly under. These are the historical workings. These are those dumps that you see in the photograph right up in here. So this this photograph, you're looking. You're looking west to east, so the photograph would have been taken from over here. Those are those dumps getting right in here, drilling right underneath the dumps, again drilling right underneath the dumps. There are some dumps off in here and some workings, drilling underneath those and drilling underneath those, and again getting a sense of how thick the alteration zones may be that are associated with this mineralization.
What kind of angles are you going to drill those holes at?
Generally at around a -45, -50, maybe kind of -55 up in here. So they're all going to be. The idea is to get some depth penetration, get underneath the oxide zones, and but still be able to carry a reasonable distance into the host rock.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking maybe -60, so you could get deeper by the time you're getting, into the Cretaceous.
Yeah, well, the initial drilling is going to focus on. Again, I always like to target at least 2 pieces of geological information. So we have surface sampling up in here, and we've got some oxide. And then we have some geophysical targets. So, we decided to take advantage of that and test both underneath the historic workings, underneath the historic areas where we've sampled mineralization, and still testing some of these geophysical anomalies, which again will give us more information as to what each of these signatures represent. As we get a little bit more comfortable with what is here and what each of these signatures is telling us in the subsurface, we can maybe get a little bit more aggressive, or alternatively, maybe it means if we start drilling, high-grade copper mineralization, maybe that tells us that we need to be a little bit more careful with our step outs in terms of chasing up this mineralization. But again, you get this first phase. It becomes all arm waving when you don't have a drill hole in there and you don't know what any of these geophysical targets mean. How far down the oxide mineralization goes, what the sulfide mineralization looks like once you get a hole through it. And until we have some of those answers, it's all hypothetical right now.
Rob, what's your gut as far as how deep in the system you are kind of at the surface here? Normally you'd think copper gets rich kind of deeper in the system. You go from magnetite to pyrrhotite to and how deep you think you are here?
Well, I mean, as far as I can see, and again, a lot of the mineralization, that we're seeing on surface, I mean, it's all oxide.
Yeah.
We're not, as far as I've seen, that you're not seeing any great epithermal textures, so you are probably looking at something that's reasonably deep, that's reasonably spatially associated with the causative intrusion, and so I suspect it's it can be a fairly deep system, but my understanding is that these can be often very, very big systems as well, and so again, it's hard to know where the drill stem will take us, but I'm quite eager to find out.
Just to shift focus a little bit, what's your cost of drilling down there for core?
Generally, it's around $200 to $250 a meter, US a meter.
Is that typical Mexico cost?
Yes. Yeah. It's usually just over $100 a meter as the direct drilling cost. And then 75 to $100 a meter for all of the for the geos, for the analyses, logistics, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was if that was a little higher than normal because you're if you're really in skarn, maybe a little harder, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, based on what we've done at Cerro Las Manitas, those are the sorts of numbers that I'm going on right now. Yeah, I guess we'll see.
And what's the turnaround time now in Mexico for assays?
It's still about 6 weeks.
Hasn't improved yet.
It hasn't gotten worse. I mean, I'm finding in BC that when the Golden Triangle starts heating up, and we're trying to with a sister company where we're submitting samples. I mean, it can literally be months.
Yeah, Mexico. So BC should get worse. Mexico hopefully should at least shouldn't get worse in theory over the summer.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Now we'll probably end up. Well, again, if we end up using ALS, which we have in the past down in Mexico, the only issue is if their lab up here in BC, which is where they tend to do the analyses, if that gets really backed up. But they were very good last year in terms of our samples from Mexico. So I guess until I start seeing an issue, I don't get too worried or too uptight about it.
Do you guys think there's going to be more overall exploration drilling in Mexico this year versus last year?
I don't know. I mean, I think there may have been a very big push over this last year. I think there's certain projects which have cashed up, but I don't know if everybody is. So it's. I think it'll certainly be as busy, maybe a little bit busier, maybe not quite. But I suspect it'll be similar to last year.
All right. Before I completely monopolize all of our time, well, it looks like I really have, but let me pass it back to Campbell in case there's any questions from the audience.
Actually, you were gonna, you said you had a question or two on Brazil, so that's what we have.
Well, I'm super interested in Pilar. I didn't know, this is my first exposure to. I remember the Pilar Mine, but my first exposure to Pilar Gold as a company. So it certainly seems very exciting, considering they're bringing on so many mines, in such a short period of time. I'm sure you guys have done your due diligence. I don't know if Pilar is still on the line there, but I am kind of curious, sort of what's what kind of staff and expertise they've brought on to get all these mines up and running in such a short period of time.
Maybe I can comment on this, Adam.
Please.
I'm Thomas. I'm Jeremy's partner and director of Pilar. The Pilar mine has been an operational mine, so we don't need to bring it into production. It was initially brought into production by Yamana in 2014, and it's gone through a lot of owners. It's been initially with Yamana, then Yamana spun out Rio Gold with their Brazilian operations. Rio was acquired by Leah Gold, and then Leah Gold was acquired by Equinox in 2018. So it's got a history, and we, Jeremy and I and Charles, we bid for it in last year. Gone through over a year of negotiations with Equinox, and we were kind of lucky due to COVID because nobody else seemed to have been able to send due diligence teams down to Brazil. We already have our Brazil team operational through our other assets with Fina. So we had a running start and would send our people in Brazil to look at the assets. So Pilar has been in operation. The opportunity here is that within Equinox and even within Leagold, it was always the smallest of their mines in their portfolio, especially in Equinox, which is a 3-4 billion company producing almost 700,000 ounces. Pilar, with its 40,000 ounces, is of course very substantial for Pilar Gold, but it was by far the smallest asset within Equinox, and that's why they sold it. Simple as that. And within a larger company, Equinox, didn't really pay much attention to Pilar, and the mine never got the resources to grow. And the management team down there is very excited now to unlock the potential they have, which Equinox understandably never gave them because it didn't move the needle for them. So for Pilar Gold, the Pilar Mine is now the cornerstone major investment, a major producer. But we already have a lot of other things on the go and other mines in the area, as Jeremy told you earlier. So we are hopefully going to be the next growth story in Brazil with a producing mine, and the Poconé assets are a perfect addition, which will be another pillar, if you want, pillar within Pilar Gold in Mato Grosso, where it's a different kind of mining, very simple, free digging, no underground, very low cost mining, and we have the resources, we have the team, so it's very synergistic to bring all of this into Pilar Gold. And I appreciate it's not very visible right now because we're still private and we're going for an IPO later this year. But I think the valuation that Jeremy also showed you earlier underlines that the 4 million Pilar shares that Valterra will own in itself currently already cover Valterra's market cap. And there's obviously a lot of upside from here because we're just getting started.
Thank you.
Yeah, certainly, you know, if you can hit your targets and bring all of these mines, in addition to the operating Pilar mine, on the schedule that Jeremy outlined, you know, that would be a very impressive ramp up. You know, you know, it's certainly very interesting, especially with, especially so because it seems to me like most of these mines are restarts. So, but it seems like quite a few mines to be, even though they're all relatively small, quite a few mines to be juggling from a management standpoint.
Not really. As I said, Pilar itself is producing. It's got its own management team, so there's no worry there. Within the Pilar complex, we have another mine that we can reopen, but that's all handled by the existing management team, which came along with the Pilar acquisition. What Jeremy mentioned is the additional mines that come along with Fina, and just to be sure that Fina is technically not yet part of Pilar, but hopefully will be soon. And the Sertão mine, for example, will be a very easy add-on. It used to be a mine producing up until 2007 under Troy. It's an open pit. Fina has already started the permitting process to get it up and running again. So again, this is not a complicated exercise in Brazil to get this mine started up again.
Thank you. Want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we're over our hour, and I'm going to pass the program back to Larry and Rob to close us, and very exciting events here.
Well, thanks so much, Campbell. It's always a pleasure to present to your people. There's always some very good questions. Although Valterra looks like a penny dreadful, it's been in business for some time. It's got some significant assets, and we can access good people to monetize the properties, and that's what we intend to do. We're doing a little bit of a raise now, and we'll close the transaction with the Pilar folks. Rob's going to see what he can do about making Los Reyes a lot more valuable than we believe it is now. So keep the faith. Be with us.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks.